The tale of this movie unfolds during the celebration of New Year's Eve when everyone is happy and enjoying the fireworks. People are kicking off the old year, welcoming the new year with joy. However, amidst the cheerful sounds of fireworks, something terrible happens. Shots are fired, and people are hurt. The shooting causes a lot of chaos and confusion in the crowd. Eleanor, who works as a local security cop, steps into a bar to handle a dispute between a salesman and a customer. This seems to be a common issue during her work. While she's dealing with this, she gets a message on her radio to go to the site of the shooting immediately. Leaving the bar with worry on her face, she rushes to the location where the incident took place. The wireless communication keeps her connected with other units. They are all told to go to the accident site urgently, and Eleanor, feeling the stress, goes to the home of one victim, a teenager who got shot by a sniper. She tries to comfort the grieving family. She turns off the lights and asks the mother to take care of the other kids. It's a tough situation. They locate the place where the shooting happened with the help of a thermal laser. But suddenly, there's a massive explosion. Eleanor rushes to the building, trying to capture what's happening with her phone camera and a device called a war worker. The police arrive, and together with them, Eleanor navigates through more than 17 floors to reach the scene of the explosion. It's not an easy task, but they manage to get there. Barely reaching the entrance door without a mask, she goes inside the house. After the police arrive and the firefighters put out the fire, Eleanor tries to get some fresh air outside, but it seems like she's thrown from the building. She must be hurt, but thankfully, rescuers find her. From what she gathers, the owner of the unit where the incident happened never lived there. Someone was renting it. The killer cleverly used this house without permission and caused a tragedy. The killer, cunningly, used the explosion to destroy all the evidence against him. This tactic seems to work, leaving the police force completely puzzled. On her way back from the scene, Eleanor is scolded for not following orders. She's told not to disobey orders at the police department. The chief introduces the Lambert Group, a collaboration with the FBI, to help solve the case. He emphasizes the need to look for a normal person, not connected to terrorists, but someone who just wants to create a mysterious persona through these murders. Eleanor, being a low-level agent, hears her colleagues' belief that the killer is an international assassin targeting important people. She disagrees, thinking the killings are random and just for fun. Lamarck, the chief, is interested in her perspective and asks her to explain her theory. Eleanor thinks the killer is seeking peace through mass murder, like someone enjoying their favorite food until they get hungry again. Eleanor goes back home, and it seems she lives alone, dealing with mental disorders. The next day, she gets a call about a meeting with Lamarck. He suggests closing entertainment and commercial centers for a while to prevent a similar incident. However, there's disagreement from higher-ups. Lambert insists on arresting the person responsible without shutting down the city, promising a quick resolution. Lamarck, acknowledging Eleanor's intelligence and ability to predict the killer's moves, asks her to be a special agent. Mackenzie, introduced as a necessary asset, is a professional workshop worker crucial for approaching the killer. Lamarck trusts only Eleanor and Mackenzie with the case, believing in their intelligence and efficiency. During a meeting, Lamarck shares his experience and talks about surveillance cameras and hidden camera blind spots. Mackenzie provides a list of people who visited the unit, while Eleanor takes notes. They find out a grenade caused the explosion, and the old gun used is challenging to trace. Despite Lamarck's attempts to keep other units out of the case, it becomes unavoidable. This situation really bothers Lamarck because it shows that the people in charge don't trust his team, and they seem to be meddling with their work. They go together to a room where they've laid out the bodies. The bullets hit the victims in the head, chest, neck, and body very precisely, indicating that the shooter is highly skilled and flawless. Looking at the number of casualties, they think the assailant is probably a man. Lamarck observes that the killer seems to have no intention of making the victims suffer. Instead, he gives them a one-way ticket to Narnia with just one accurate shot. There's no specific pattern among the victims. It's a mix of old and young people. Surprisingly, one of the agents informs them that they've found the killer. They rush to the scene, led by Frank, the person in charge of counterterrorism. Frank explains to Lamarck that they have a suspect who refused to cooperate during questioning. Lock himself in a room, and even threatened to kill all the agents. According to Frank's information, this suspect seems to be a perfect match for the killer they're looking for. Lammer, however, wants to make sure the suspect is armed. Frank insists that they should leave the mission to the counterterrorism team. In the course of events, they encounter a teenager who jumps out of a window while confronting the police and ends up being killed. Lammer wants to find out if the teenager had a gun, but Frank doesn't have an answer. This turns into a big problem for Lammer, and he'll have to answer to higher authorities. The operation meant to reassure society ends in tragedy with the accidental death of a depressed Arab teenager, whose only crime was playing loud music that raised suspicions among the officers. It's a huge mistake. Mackenzie, the one responsible for questioning, has 3 painters who recently worked on the house ready for interrogation. Lammer questions them about their whereabouts during the explosion. Each person proves that they were at family parties or alone at home and had no knowledge of the incident. Lammer then asks Eleanor, his colleague, to take the baby out of the room for further questioning. Though Eleanor feels a bit suspicious, she obeys Lammer's order. Later, Eleanor reviews photos and videos from the night and receives a prototype of sanitation experiments at the scene for Lammer. However, she refuses to hand over the folder when Lammer becomes erratic. Hours later, Lammer finds the folder with Eleanor, who has concluded from low iron in the samples that the killer may have a meat and protein deficiency. Lammer accuses Eleanor of lacking sufficient knowledge to prove this information. After this incident, Lammer apologizes to Eleanor for his behavior. He invites her to dinner to discuss the project further. Lammer takes Eleanor home, and they dine with Lammer's husband. They discuss the wrong policies of their country after dinner. Lammer shares Eleanor's history, revealing her past struggles with severe depression, aggression, and addiction. After treatment, she came to the city to be safe from herself. Lammer asks her to continue solving the case, offering comfort and understanding. Eleanor swims to calm her thoughts. In the city center mall, chaos erupts as gunshots ring out. Eleanor, previously talking to a gun dealer, realizes something terrible has happened in the mall. She rushes there, finding the CCTV room. Lammer provides approximate information about the assailant to the news. A tall, white man around 35 years old. Returning to the bathroom, they find a shirt, suggesting the killer didn't come to kill but to feed himself. Intervening with his security team, the killer caused chaos, killing many people and escaping. Eleanor's guess is correct. His body lacks iron because he is a vegetarian. Photos show he kills everyone in cold blood, even police officers with grenades. According to Lammer, he is a unique shooter, and the gun is like a part of his body. Mackenzie reports that the vehicle has unloaded the debris. Lammer, along with Mackenzie, searches for the killer's DNA through the shirt. Now, Lammer faces questions from higher authorities. They search through garbage for the needle in the haystack, symbolizing the difficulty of finding the shirt among the trash. The killer's DNA is found, bringing some relief to Lammer. However, hearing the report about the killer's shoes, Eleanor notices traces of paint and wood chips, leading her to investigate one of the painters further. The shirt report reveals severe trauma to the killer's head. After a suspicious person reports to the police, they go to the track location to find the individual. On the way, Eleanor expresses to Lambert that she considers the ongoing investigation a childish distraction. She is convinced that the killer thereafter is not driven by threats and revenge. Lamarck agrees with her assessment, but despite their doubts, they must arrest the suspect as orders have come from higher authorities, and there's intense pressure to make progress. As they track the suspicious car to its location, they attempt to discreetly clear the shop of people. However, the presence of the police becomes apparent, leading to a shooting, resulting in fatalities. Upon obtaining a confession from a surviving individual, they discover that the motive behind the violence was a quest for social media fame. This incident marks another failure for Lamarck, leading to their complete removal from the case and absolution of responsibility. Eleanor faces suspension due to her mental health and addiction file being in the hands of the FBI, who do not approve of her continued involvement in the case. As night falls, Lamarck, burdened by the inability to find the killer, resorts to drinking to numb his pain. The frustration of not solving the case takes a toll on his health, aggravating his heart disease. His concerned husband brings him back home. Similarly, Eleanor turns to alcohol, returning home upset that the case remains unsolved, and she even loses her current job. The weight of these events pushes her to contemplate suicide. In a moment of reflection, as Eleanor gazes at the colors of her bathroom ceiling, she uncovers a revelation that prompts her to visit the suspicious painter's house. She discovers that Ramsay, the painter, had given the keys to someone else during the house repairs. Although Ramsay refuses to disclose the person's name during interrogation, his angered wife intervenes, compelling him to reveal the truth. In the early morning hours, Lamarck joins to listen to Ramsay's confession. Ramsay discloses that 2 years ago, he had been involved with an illegal company tasked with finding low-wage illegal workers. The company used Dean, a dull and quiet man who didn't consume meat, for various projects. Dean had previously worked in a downtown slaughterhouse, and his vegetarianism stemmed from a dislike for meat, having once been employed in the meat industry. Ramsay had hidden this information to protect his family from the murderer. He collaborates to create a composite sketch of the killer's face with the help of a face painter. Lamarck and Eleanor then head to the slaughterhouse to gather more information about the killer. At the slaughterhouse, Ramona, who worked with Dean in 1998, provides additional information, finally revealing the killer's true identity. Dean Posse. Eleanor delves into Dean's files, discovering that his father, a shooting instructor, had trained him. They rush to the Posse family home before Dean arrives. Despite Dean's mother being aware of recent events, she explains that her son suffered a head injury as a child, turning him into a person filled with hatred. He is sensitive to sunlight and loud noises, preferring solitude. Dean's mother recounts how his father had trained him for the army, but he was rejected due to his mental disability. Dean's mother reveals her suspicion by asking Eleanor not to move, and Lamarck is shot by Dean when he approaches us. Dean's mother seeks a solution to alleviate her son's suffering and requests Eleanor's help. Eleanor confiscates their gun and phone and heads to the cabin where Dean is. She proposes 2 options. Either Dean goes to a special people's prison or joins her in the afterlife. Dean leaves the hut and slowly walks towards the house. After settling in, Eleanor attempts to sympathize with him through conversation. Dean, sharp-witted, requests not to be pitied. He describes how humans annoy him with noise and light, likening life to a prison and considering humans as enslaved to earn money. Despite Eleanor's efforts to persuade him to start new, Dean believes it's too late for him. In an unusual turn, Dean requests Eleanor to shoot him in the head. After spending the night in his mother's arms, a police patrol unit arrives at the house due to the sound of gunshots. This prompts Dean to take Eleanor to a warehouse where she is imprisoned. Dean expresses concern that someone might have heard the shot, leading him to kill the agents. Later, a large number of police forces surround him as he plans another explosion to escape. Eleanor, exhausted herself, tries to dissuade him with words, as she too is weary of the situation. Eleanor attempts to prevent the explosion, but Dean, refusing to kill, escapes. Eventually, she frees herself and heads to the police force. The search for Dean continues for hours until he is found exhausted and injured. Despite the forces shooting him, Dean is finally punished for his actions. In the tragic aftermath, Lamarck is killed, and Eleanor emerges as the sole survivor. Despite the loss, Eleanor ensures that Lamarck is posthumously awarded a Medal of Bravery, and all his rights are transferred to his husband. She decides to continue working as a special agent, finding solace in the resolution of the case. With the killer finally captured, Eleanor and Lamarck can find relief, knowing that justice has been served.